Hey guys, I am just heading up to my buddy's house, Quinn and Megan Brown's. They have a podcast they started a few months ago called Justifying the F Word. I interviewed Quinn on my YouTube channel, and today they're going to interview me. Their podcast, Justifying the F Word, stands for living your best life in your 40s and 50s. And so it's kind of a podcast about, living good in your 40s and 50s so that when you get even older than that, you can still have a really good life as well and just live healthy and good and have good attitude. So here we go. Hope you guys enjoy this one.
Welcome to Justifying the F Word, everybody. Another week, another episode.
Yeah, and one of the questions we get probably the most is, what does that F word stand for? I kind of feel uncomfortable. So what do you guys think it stands for?
I would say fire truck, fissure, and old Fezziwig.
Fender guitars, Fig Newtons.
Ooh, delicious.
I know, right? I'm hungry. You guys
But fissures?
Fissures.
Fissures.
Yeah. It's when the earth opens up. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. It's like
Quinn,
taking
the weird geologist.
Yeah, taking that in a whole different thing.
We do have a mystery guest that we'll introduce here in a little bit. But if you hear his smooth, soft, sultry tones, we have...
yes, we're just going to keep it so you're just like... It's like, the anticipation.
It's like rusted honey in your ear.
Yes. Yeah. But really, F word, guys, if you're tuning in... F word, as always, standing for your 40s and 50s. Again, any age. So if you are in your 20s, your 80s, whatever age it is, we want you on here listening. But it kind of sounds good, right?
Yeah. And we welcome you to the tribe. So quite the week this week. Megan, why don't you give your recap?
Yeah. So Thanksgiving, big day, big eating day, I would say. Yeah.
Just a little bit, right?
The cornucopia that keeps giving.
The horn of plenty spewed forth its goodness of the harvest.
Yeah, so we were invited to go to Quinn's sister's house, and she is a gourmet cook, so way better than we could pull off ourselves. So, it was awesome. But Quinn, will you recap for me?
Can I tell you what happened to my week? And I just want to rant here for a second is... I think it is, we kind of do my nerd segments, and I don't know if anybody's written a doctorate on this or not, but I think it's a law of nature that your fire alarm is going to start beeping or a kid will always throw up at 2 a.m. in the morning. I have yet to ever have it happen like during the day. So there I was, fast asleep, visions of sugar plums, right? Like just nestled in my bed, mom in her kerchief, I in my cap, and I was settled down for my warm winter's nap. When what did I hear? The freaking fire alarm going, derp, derp, derp. So I got up, struggled, wandered around the house, and then took me about another half hour to find a 9-volt. But once again, that's an absolute just law of nature. Well,
and you were the only one in the house to hear it.
That's because I'm the great protector.
Yeah. So this week as well, we hit we're over 1,000 downloads now, but we hit 1,000 download mark this week. So we just want to tell all of you, thank you for staying with us.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing, guys. That's awesome.
Congratulations, you too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Amazing.
Who is that?
The stranger.
Ooh.
So sultry.
So mysterious.
So sultry. Mm-hmm. Well, I would like to formally introduce Mr. Rich Bischoff in the studio. And for those of you guys that don't know Rich Bischoff is a guitar player extraordinaire, kind of famous because he kind of plays in the Quinn Brown Project.
True. I agree with that. It's so famous.
It's a very...
We've been on Fox 13.
Yeah, and you happen to be fired from the band Kansas.
Before I even was hired.
Before you were even hired, which is better than anybody else can say, right? Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. So I just want to introduce Rich. I met Rich when I was a young 21-year-old man.
Was a lifetime
with
ago.
Dreams that had not been crushed yet.
Right.
Yeah, and Rich was playing with the band.
You're so innocent.
I know. So Rich and I both attended Utah State University.
We were both pure back then.
Pure and innocent. The world had not tainted us.
Yeah.
I don't think you had streaked across Utah State at that age.
No, I was. No, I mean, at least Maybe not Utah State, but there are plenty of other,
Yes, there's
plenty other
let's
instances
just
of public
say,
nudity.
Yeah, there's a lot of photos out there that Quinn could never become president. Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, I met Rich. Rich was playing with a band called Brother Sage, and I was in a band called Cinnamon Brown and the Eskimos at the time, and we used to open up for each other. And we'd always remark like, hey, that guy can absolutely shred. Well, fast forward, 10 years, 12 years?
I would say
Yeah,
15.
15? Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah,
Even
15.
more. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, something like
It's a
that.
while.
And moved back to Utah and got reconnected with Rich through a mutual friend. And then said mutual friend moved out of town, and Rich settled right in like a hand in a warm glove, right into the Quinn Brown project.
Well, because it was great because everyone could play. Everyone could play their instruments, but nobody wanted to rehearse. So we
Yeah.
could always just show up to a gig and
Well-
kind of pull it off. I mean, we still did
Yeah.
rehearse a little bit, but it was like just showing up and like killing it.
And for those of you guys that don't know, when it comes to playing in a band as an adult, it's finding people that are really good and as equally uncommitted to the whole thing as you are.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So Rich and I actually happen to be roomies when we go on the road. And Rich, you and I have had some fun times together.
Yes, and in fact, Quinn used to bring his yoga mat to the hotel room to gigs where we'd play. I don't know if you ever actually did yoga.
Oh, I did yoga,
Did you?
bro.
I may have been taking a nap
A lot of
while you
gambler
took
dogs.
while you did yoga.
Absolutely love it.
Did you wake up and go, what is happening with my life?
when I first met these guys and he's like, "Oh, I've got my laptop and my my yoga mat," I was just like, "What have I got myself into?" with this
Well,
thing?
we did invite you to run up the mountain with us too.
That's true.
I think Rich was smart enough to be like, I'm staying at the hotel.
No, I've been up to Jackson enough that I was like, "Okay, guys, I've seen all this.
You're like,
you
no,
guys go
you
have fun. I'm
you
gonna relax."
Rich also shares a very warm affinity for a hot tub. So,
Oh yes, and
Yeah.
and it's one of my dreams to have the pleasure cooker.
yes.
What do you call it again?
The USS
USS pleasure
Yeah.
cooker.
Isn't it a
2.0?
Isn't it a prerequisite of being in the band that you have to live the hot tub?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was a
good
thing.
soak.
There was a thing called the Jacuzzi Quest,
Ooh.
and in fact, there was one time when Quinn was not with us. We were doing a 3-piece, and
So
Kirk walked into a hotel and asked the guy at the front desk, "Hey, do you care if we just use the hot tub?" And we thought, "There's no way this is going to work."
Why not?
Kirk comes walking back out. We're good to go, guys.
So, wait, there were 3 of you guys in a hot tub together.
Rub-a-dub-dub.
what do they
3-man
call
I
that?
feel like, I feel
I
like
think
this
that
is,
there's something yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to get into this
he's
episode.
like
good
shaking
hot
his
tub.
head.
Yeah.
I love a good hot
Yeah.
tub.
Stop now. Please no, please no. The reason why we have Rich on, besides just being an all-around incredible guitar player and great friend, is Rich is the absolute king of the side hustle. And Megan, do you want to just talk about what a side hustle is for a second?
Well, the side hustle, if you have watched Zootopia, yes,
I think Try Anything.
Yeah, that's your favorite song. No, anyway, but yeah, the side hustle. The reason why we wanted to bring Rich on is he's not only an amazing guitar player, like we've talked about, and we're going to dive into that even more. But he has started this side hustle. So besides playing guitar, like, how did you get started? Like on this your side hustle? I love that you're like slowly cracking.
Well, I know
You
you.
guys are getting really serious now.
I know. I was like, was it to land chicks? Like, what was it along the way that the side hustle was birthed?
Necessity. Really, it was just a way for me to make extra money so that my wife and I and my family could live the lifestyle we actually wanted to live and not have to be like, "Oh, we can't go on that trip because I'm not doing something extra." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in reality, that was a huge part of it, but also I'm really passionate about video and music. And if I'm not doing something, I get a lot of anxiety and I just can't sit still. And sometimes I actually even get depressed if I'm not doing something. And so music and creating content, thus my YouTube channel, was a way to do that. And about 2.5, 3 years ago, my brother sends me this text. "Hey, Richard." That's what they all call me. They call me Richard.
They don't shorten
I don't
it
call
in any
sometimes
other way.
they do. It's mostly
Yeah, they do. They do that.
Oh, I was just wondering.
What are you trying to say, Megan?
I don't know.
Anyway, long story short, my brother's like, you have some money that the state has that they say is yours. I'm like, what? So you can go to this website called Claim Your Money or whatever. And I said, so I call them. I said, what is this money? And they're like, it's from Google. And I had started posting on YouTube years ago, but never got serious about it. I just would post something and it would get a few views and like, this kind of sucks. And I knew it was going to be a lot of work. So I just never jumped into it. And as soon as I got this check for like $280 that I never claimed because I never set up anything monetarily on YouTube, but somehow YouTube knew that they owed me money.
Why does this never happen to us?
Well, no,
Usually-
it never happens to me.
Usually
like-
we get
Yeah.
the one in the mail that's like, oh, by the way, you owe $5,000.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, what's your secret sauce?
No, I've gotten those as well. And in fact, there's all this stuff happened over Thanksgiving we won't even get into that's just horrible. But anyway, so I'm like, okay, well, man, I made money on YouTube. If that means I actually went and did this and got serious about it, what can happen? So I kind of knew the guy that worked at the guitar store down the street where I worked. And I went in there and said, hey, do you care if I just what do you think about me taking gear and doing reviews? And he honestly just said, we were going to do that ourselves. If you want to do it, that would be awesome. And so I basically have access to like whatever guitars I want from this store in Logan, Utah.
You're more than welcome to mention the name of the store. Give it a plug.
Main Street Guitars. Go check it out. It's in the basement of the book table. They've been good to me. They've been good to a lot of people. They sell about every name brand guitar you can possibly think of, mostly guitars and amps. So if you're a guitar player, go check them out.
So, Rich, tell me about the first dollar you ever made playing. I mean, I know that as a fellow musician, that's a pretty amazing thing when that happens. Tell me, when was that?
So do you remember the 24th Street Galleria or whatever it was called in Salt Lake? Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Was that what it was called?
I was a baby.
Megan would have been like in
Was it
7th
called
or
the
8th
20
grade. Yeah.
something Galleria? Anyway,
I didn't rob the cradle, okay?
I was going to say, it was probably demolished.
It went
by
out
the
of
time
business right before she...
we did a gig there, and it was like basically this like bowling alley / miniature golf, but they had like a stage in the middle of this place. It's like all the cool fun stuff you can do inside. And I think we got paid $10 each, me and my high school band. And we were kind of more of like a Rush cover band, classic rock. I think we made money. But the first time I really like thought, whoa, this is cool, was that we played for Utah State when I first got off. When I first started school, I went up there with the band and they hired us to play as school was kind of starting. And the first gig we did was in what's called the Student Center. And then that night we played on the Quad. And I remember getting a check for $400 and going, okay, I want to keep doing this. You know what I mean?
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And Rich, when did you stop
Stop what?
gigging?
I've never stopped gigging.
Exactly. So
I was like, is this a trick question? What's happening here?
one of the coolest stories about Rich and about a side hustle, right, is Rich, when I first met Rich, he was just moving into a brand new house. And I asked Rich, I said, wow, I said, that's amazing, man. And Rich said, you want to know what's even more amazing? And I said, what? And he said, I use gig money for the down payment.
Bam.
Well, the coolest story is that when I was taking lessons up at Utah State from Mike Christiansen, my mom says to him, can you teach him like some classical or something, not this rock and roll stuff? And Mike turns and says to my mom, rock and roll paid for my house. And so that kind of always stuck in my head. And so for years, I would just play these kind of like whatever gig I could play. I had this bank account that was across the street from the place I worked. It was like a credit union. I would walk over on my lunch break and deposit my gig money from the weekend. And I'd just never touch it. And by the time I sold my old house and we wanted to get into this new house, my wife had no idea how much money was in there. And she's
You
like,
have one of those?
yeah, this is kind of like, she knew, she
Is there
knew,
one of those?
no, she knew I had the account.
Oh, okay.
She knew I had the account.
I mean, I'm okay if there's a hidden account too.
No, I think the $10,000 that paid for braces came out of
okay.
some blood, sweat, and tears on the
Okay.
stage.
Anyway,
Yeah, keep going.
So no. I was not really hiding it from her. She knew I had it. She was happy I was doing it because I'm the only one in the relationship that really saves money. And so, Tyra, I love you, but you don't save any money.
Hey, you got to be good at something, right? Megan's incredible at spending money too.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys are
My
good.
shoes
Cheers.
look amazing. Okay.
They're on point. They're on point.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we sold our house in the recession. It was like, and we sold it for, and the cool thing about the house thing is that we built our own house when we first built our first house. So we had a lot of equity in it. So not only did I have that equity, but then I had like $36,000 from gigs that I put into my house. And I mean, yeah, side hustle.
Yeah.
Side
You know what
hustle.
I mean?
Well, and the thing I find amazing about that is you took something that you loved, right? And I think one of the hardest things that people come across is they're like, oh, I'd love to do something, but I just don't know what. And not only there, we know quite a few musicians that play that still, and they've been doing it for years, but don't make any money doing it. But I think one of the neatest things, Rich, is why don't you talk about not only did you get into playing, and we've barely touched on YouTube a little bit, but what else are you doing to increase your revenue stream as part of your side hustle?
So one thing,
First, talk about the most joyous thing in the world, which is the teaching. There's no greater gift.
Stop. No, I will get into
D.
that. No, especially when they don't practice one iota. And there's every excuse.
My question is, do you sing like Adele and Taylor Swift with your students? Because that would be Quinn. Like we would just sit on the stairs.
I'll do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, and I'm like, Quinn knows every word to every every Taylor Swift song, and so it's a little embarrassing.
No, I can't even. I'm not even going to try. So early on as a musician, getting back to the whole side hustle thing, is that I realized you can't just do one thing, which kind of sucks because unless you like live in Nashville or you have some kind of connections, you have some kind of fame, you really have to put your dip your feet into about everything. So
Eggs in a
it's
different
like,
basket.
I'd like to say it's like the melting pot with various fondues.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Which I love fondue, so it works out. But the thing is
Delicious.
So I started teaching guitar in college just for a little extra cash. But then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I could pick up some students in Brigham where I lived because it was a small town. There was only one other big guitar player that lived there. And he didn't even move there till I'd been there for a while. And so I basically had a waiting list of guitar players. And then I was really, for a lot of years, I had this job where, most jobs you can kind of surf the internet. So I really got into researching recording. And I kind of fell in love with like recording, like the process of it and microphones and gear and all that nerdy stuff. So I got into that. So that was another way of me making money. So I had lessons, I had the studio, I had gigs. And so then just recently, 2.5, 3 years ago, I got serious about YouTube. So now I've got all these, like 4 income streams coming in from my side hustle, which you almost have to do to make, unless you blow up as a YouTuber or something really cool happens for you. Like I would love to just do one of those things, not teaching. Don't,
I feel like that's every guitar teacher.
no, you know what? I love kids and I love all that stuff, but like it's kind of like it kills your soul.
Well, I will say, as a
teaching
as someone who is taught, you have the ones that steal your soul solely, and then you have the ones that are so rewarding that they come in, they write a song, and it's amazing,
right?
And they love it. And then you have the ones.
But I think there's always one difference: those that practice and those that don't.
Yeah, resistance.
Yeah.
But,
So, Rich, you were talking about YouTube, right?
yes.
So, what age? Because we know you, but let our audience know. Like, what age were you at?
I was
when
probably
you,
45.
45,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so
Well, I really, I started YouTube when the platform first got on there, and I'm like, oh, what's this new thing? And I remember uploading a guitar, like almost like kind of a lesson video that within a week got 100,000 views. And I just thought, oh, whatever. I didn't know anything. And back then I don't think you could even monetize it. People were just like, it was like the Wild West of content and social media. And so I was just like, whatever. And then life got so busy and all of a sudden everyone started doing it. And so I'd put a video up, and it would only get, all of a sudden I was going from 100,000 views to like 20 views, 100 views. And I'm like, oh, this isn't, all the time you put in isn't worth it. But once I got that check from Google, that's when I'm like, you know what?
that was more of your spark where you were like,
yeah, I was like, you know what? Oh, I can really, I can really make money. And the nice thing was, is because I started early, I already had almost 1,000 subscribers, which you have to have on YouTube to start making money. And you have to have so many hours of views. I already had that. So all I had to do was just start doing it. And then I grew. You know what I mean?
Like from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So with doing that, obviously you started it at 45.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you think about YouTube, you think about 17-year-old millionaires that crash Ferraris for fun and that kind of stuff. So
I thought that was Rich's lifestyle.
Yeah. It turns into your kids crashing your cars.
Oh, good times.
Yeah, we're about a year out
Yeah.
from that. Yeah.
So
Just you wait.
with starting this at 45, what was the most challenging aspect of it?
I mean, how do you start it at 45 when you're 25?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Megan. My slim figure here.
Yeah, there you go.
The most challenging thing is just the time. Do you know what I mean? And balancing it with your family and like making sure that they're happy with the time they're spending with you, especially your spouse. Like, in fact, it's gotten to a point where you spend so much time doing stuff up in the studio, which is above my garage, kind of like this loft area I have in my house, a bonus room. And, that I finally was like, you know what? I want to kind of be around my family more, that I bought a laptop just to edit video on so I could be downstairs or in bed with my wife and not just up there alone. Do you know what I mean?
That's called multitasking, young
Yeah.
man.
I have a good computer.
You're like, I'm here.
You're like,
but,
no, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm here in bed.
I have a good computer upstairs, but I was like, you know what? I'm just up here and no one ever comes up here when I'm doing this. I'd rather I can edit and still hang out with my kids and my wife and talk to them. And so that was only like a few months ago that I just said, I'm going to buy a laptop and just start editing the video on my laptop.
But it sounds like that has been just life-changing for you and your family.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing about my family, my kids, is they grew up around all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? So they kind of, I don't think they really take it for granted, but they all play an instrument or three. Do you know what I mean?
And tell our audience how many kids you have.
Three. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that you have teenagers that aren't like, ugh, I hate music is amazing.
No.
Yeah,
they love it. Oh man. My daughter, we bought tickets to see this band in December called Churches, coming to Salt Lake. And that's one of the things I do with my kids that I love doing. I started bonding with she's 19 now, but at the time, probably like 14, with Sage, my oldest, over a band called Paramore and lots of other music. But yeah, you know.
That's super cool, man. And I know all of us that have run a side hustle always hit this point, but tell us about a point where you asked yourself, is this actually worth it? And what kind of helped push you over the edge? Because, you know, for anybody listening that maybe wants to start a podcast or a YouTube channel or start their own little boutique on Etsy, there's going to come a point where you have the excitement where it's like, oh, this is awesome, we're moving. And then is this actually worth it, man? Like, is this worth the time?
Every day.
Every day.
Every week. Yeah. You guys just started a podcast. And so you know kind of what goes into it.
And it takes, I will say for Quinn and I, eye-opening, how much time. And that was one thing I would say. We're episode 7 today, and we were very naive right from the get-go. You're like, oh, it seems so easy. We can just do this and boom, it's up. And it's very time consuming.
Yeah. And the thing is as you do it more, it gets easier and you get faster at it. But, even though that's happening, sometimes you don't feel like you're seeing a lot of reward from it. And so you have to if you're going to do this kind of thing, it has to come from inside you and not the outside reward that you would get from like, oh, I listened to your podcast, or man, your YouTube channel's amazing, or you get tons of subscribers. If you're going to do this kind of thing, it has to be from inside and something you really want to do and continue to do because you love it and have the passion for it. And that's why I think that if you start doing something, like you guys probably start doing this because you like talking about stuff together as a couple.
We talk a lot.
Yeah, that's great, and I love that you guys. And I wish my wife and I were more like you guys, talking as much as you guys do. But so for me, it was like I love music, man, and the whole thing behind what I do, the passion behind it is that creating music. And in fact, you know, Quinn, you know that just the last few years I've been releasing more stuff on Spotify and trying to do that, because the whole reason I got into this is because I love music and I wanted to play guitar. And it's not about any money, because really you don't make a ton. I mean, I've done well enough that I get manufacturers that send me cool products sometimes. I have an income that comes in every month that's, you know, not tons, but it like pays for stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and that's
Yeah.
got to be just huge, you know,
Yeah.
like give that wiggle room and,
Well,
and stuff for your family
what's
to do
interest-
cool stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things I thought about, like my mom gave me this book years ago. I don't know if you guys ever read this. It's called Where's My Cheese, or Who Moved My Cheese.
No, but I freaking love cheese.
Yeah.
I
Anyway.
do not discriminate against varieties of
I mean,
cheese.
I love it too, besides blue cheese.
I
I'm
don't
out.
like blue
Yeah.
cheese either. I hate blue cheese.
A good blue cheese crumbled on a steak is.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's yeah.
Anything on steak or pizza is probably pretty good. I digress. Anyway, where was I going? I don't even know.
You said your mom book cheese.
Cheese.
oh yeah.
And all I heard was cheese.
Yeah, no, it was Who Moved. I don't quote me on this, but I think the book's called Who Moved My Cheese, and it's basically like a mouse, you know, knows where the cheese is, and they'll go for it, and all of a sudden, if it's gone, they got to figure out where to go to get the cheese again. And that in life, you're gonna lose a job. You're gonna have like things move, and so for me, when gigs dry up, I depend on other things. So if I'm not playing a lot of gigs, YouTube might be the income I depend on, or teaching. I might pick up more students. And so you kind of have to be really flexible if you're going to do the kind of thing with
Like
content
yoga
creation.
flexible or like he's glaring at
Megan? No.
No. Well, so the thing too, I mean, you talked about passion, right?
Yeah.
Was you didn't pick something out there for your side hustle that you're like, I don't really know about this. It was something from the time, you know, right at the beginning, you were saying as a young boy,
Yeah.
you love guitars. Like Quinn even said before, as we were going over this interview, getting ready for it, he was like, I like guitars. Rich loves guitars. He loves the process of it. He loves how to mix it. He likes to build them. Like, I mean, I'm probably using the wrong terms here. But
Now Quinn probably lives a more balanced life than I do, and that's probably why he didn't get into it as much as I did. And I'm probably one of those obsessives that, like, I love the whole. Yeah, you're right.
No,
love
but
the whole
I mean, you've been
process of it.
able to take something that and to monetize where it has changed. And so for me, so I've talked in past episodes about being in fitness, right? So my background, I graduated in marketing. So I did marketing actually for gyms. So I was in that industry. So as always, we always share too much, but I told this story in I think it was a resistance episode about being deathly afraid of being in front of people, like literally. And I did tell in there that I did start teaching spin, and that's kind of what started. Right?
Why don't you talk about why you wanted to teach spin?
So what
Wait, what's spin?
spin cycling?
Oh, okay.
So I had never taught group fitness. I was working and I was in my early 20s and I was flatter than a board. Like I like to say I was like a 13-year-old chubby boy. Like I had no chest.
Are we talking about boobs?
Yes, boobs.
Okay.
So
just to clarify.
This podcast
Yes.
went from
Yes,
side
boom.
hustle to boobs. I'm loving you guys'
but
podcast.
we're gonna
I
come.
am loving this.
We're gonna come full
Okay.
circle.
Good.
Guitars are in there too, so it's
Yeah.
everything you
Guitar.
love, Rich.
Full circle.
I feel like we have like a full Motley Crue music video going on now. No, but so I
Megan,
want.
you brought us here.
Yes. So I really wanted to get a boob job. Like it was something I wanted to do for myself. And at that point in our life, we were just like, we don't have money to do this. And I remember Quinn being as wise as he is. He's like, yeah, wait, I know you want to say something. Come on.
I was gonna say like Yoda, but anyway.
Yes,
go
like
ahead.
Yoda. Anyway, so we would go to this cycling class twice a week. And he said, hey, have you ever thought about teaching? I'm like, no. Like I couldn't be in front of a microphone, all of this. And he said, I think that you should stretch yourself. You love fitness. And he said, take that money, put it 100% away and do that where it's something that you're going to do for yourself. That was my motivation, was literally like, you know, it took me probably a year and a half, of saving money. But that was the kind of thing, if that is what started my side hustle. Yes, it was my boob job, but it was the kind of deal that is what sprung me into the fitness industry. Kind of like you saying, are we playing guitar?
I'm just surprised you didn't wear a tighter shirt.
Yeah, I know I'm wearing flannel, but that's the kind of deal was.
Sorry, quit.
Stop. It was.
You guys can edit any of this out you want.
No,
Unfortunately, it's all live. We
it's
don't
live,
edit.
baby.
Oh, are we live right now?
Yeah,
We're
we're going.
live.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was the kind of deal that I didn't pick something that was, like you said, it was something that was already my passion, and that became my side hustle. And there's been times throughout
it
the
became
years,
your side hustle, but then what did it actually become after
it
that?
became my career.
Your career. So you went from, hey, I want to do this just to make a little extra money to get some boobs.
Yeah.
To,
and I did.
To all of a sudden, I really like this, to, for example, when we lived in Vegas, I want to start my own company, to all of a sudden I can leave my other job because I'm making more money at this side hustle and I'm doing what I love.
Yeah. And for me, I needed something that was like you're potty training your kid and you put the prize on top of the toilet. And that was what I was working towards.
We lost our 20-somethings right there.
Yeah, no, they're like, whoa. Yeah. But all the people that have kids that have potty trained realize that it's the worst thing ever. But for me, it was that was my, that was how I started my side hustle, as I had my thing working towards.
Well, and and as you were doing that, I followed you on Instagram. What is it? Fit Mom Therapy?
Yes.
Yeah. So and I totally admire people that do it, that put it out there, and you were putting it out there. Do you know what I mean? You were posting stuff. You weren't afraid to do things. And I think that's the thing about a side hustle, is just starting.
Yeah. And if I can interject here for a second, one great thing I've learned from Rich is, I've been in Rich's studio and we'll go up there and record some music. And one of the problems is when you are really passionate about something, when you love it and you're good at it, you're afraid to put it out there, because you're totally exposed. And so
I think that Taylor Swift would say the hater's gonna hate. Yeah.
So, but the problem is you end up like
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling
22,
48.
Our oldest thought it was, I'm feeling sweaty too.
Yeah. Or as Rich would say,
It's me.
I wear short shorts, Quinn wears sneakers.
I have never said that in my life, Quinn. Do never go. Never
This
go
is
there.
just
bleachers. Okay, but so let me go back to the recording. Stop interrupting me, Megan.
It was so good.
So going back to the recording studio with Rich, is you have this desire to make it perfect, and as you do it over and over and over again, it actually kind of gets a little worse and a little worse and less authentic and less authentic. And Rich is really good about saying, "Let's just go. Let's do this. This is good. Let's move." And that's honestly, probably, if you look at most people wanting to start a side hustle, because there's everybody in the world that says, I'd like to start something, right? But it's the starting line that's really the scariest part.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because if you look at anything I've released, creatively on Spotify or whatever, the last record I did was 2010, and then I got in this place in my life where I would record stuff and I'd be like, it sucks. I'm not releasing anything. I'm not going to do anything with it. It took 9 years for me to release something again. So you can get there.
Was it just more, you think, self-doubt or?
Self-doubt. Everyone's doing it. The market's flooded with creative content, blah, 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 blah. If you tell yourself that, you're never going to do anything. So you might as well just, that part of your brain, you need to just delete.
And I remember you told Quinn before we started this podcast, because I know he talked to you about it, and Quinn had said multiple times, he said, Rich said the best advice is just do it. It's not going to be perfect, and don't beat yourself up over it, because you're taking that step.
Well,
a lot of people, it's that first step in that direction.
Well, and the thing is you're going to get, as you start doing it, you're going to realize you're going to get better at it. But if you don't start, you can't get better at it. You know what I mean?
Rich, what would you say to people who are too scared to start a side hustle? I know you're going to say just start, but
think about boobs.
If you've got nice boobs, you're probably gonna do really well with a side hustle, especially if you're like on Instagram or something.
I mean, Vegas, there's a lot of side hustles.
Yeah, it really is.
Just saying.
No, Rich, what would you say to somebody? Because like I said, you started multiple things. I know one of the things when you first kind of dove back into YouTube was you decided you were going to go and interview recording studios.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, what would be your biggest piece of advice for that about people just afraid to start?
So just try stuff first. But like getting back to I was really passionate about recording studios, and I knew I was a good guitar player, but there were so many guitar channels that I'm like, I don't really want to do that. I want to try doing this other thing with recording studios. But there aren't any recording studios in Utah. There just aren't any. There's like 5 really big ones that you could go and like, it's impressive to watch on a video. Like, here you go, here's the studio. And then after that, I was like, now what do I do? I could teach recording, but there's a million channels like that. So for me, it was like finding my niche. And with YouTube, especially, like, if you don't stay in your niche, you're not going to get the views. And I feel like my niche right now is like guitar demos and maybe like just guitar gear demo stuff. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. And you're always kind of on that path of trying to figure out what your niche is. And if you can like niche down even more to where you pull more people in, that's kind of what you want to try to do.
Well, I think one of the things, and you've been really good about this in all that you do too, is I think if you're going to do anything that you're passionate about, you need to be authentic and real.
That, and you need to be good at it.
Yeah.
My thing is like, I feel like I put in, you know how they always talk about the 10,000 hours to be really good at something.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Is that who that is?
Ooh, yeah.
And so
keep going.
So if you can do that, and I felt like I was in this place as a guitar player where I could do gear demos and really show off the guitar because I can play a lot of different styles from lots of different decades. And so you really have to be good at what you do, and that helps too. You can be passionate, and there's dudes that do really well also that are just passionate and they're not even as good at guitar. They have great, big, huge YouTube channels, and you're like, how do they do that? Well, they're just passionate, and they work freaking hard. They're putting out content constantly, and it looks good and it sounds good. And so there's so many variables about success with side hustles.
So Rich,
well, I think just along with that, don't you think that people can tell if you're not? Like if it's something that you're just like, I'm kind of faking it. I think people can see right through that,
exactly.
right?
And there's times I've probably done a YouTube video where I was not in the mood to do it. And maybe people could tell, like Rich is just going through the motions on that gear demo right there.
we may or may not have had a gig like that, right?
Yeah. Big gigs too.
Yeah.
Anything you do,
where you're sitting there playing, watching the football game in the back of the bar while you're playing.
I've been on stage with a bass player that answered his phone once while he's playing with one hand and talking to a customer from his business from another.
That's why we told our daughter, you can date the drummer, the guitar player,
the singer.
Never the bass player. Sorry for any bass players out there.
That's good. Okay. So what's one thing you wish you would have known when you got started? Like, I know it's quite the learning curve, but what's one thing you wish that you would have known? Or a piece of advice or something you wish you would have?
For me, work hard, but I didn't really have to have that as far as the guitar playing thing went, because I'd be downstairs playing for 7 hours and my mom would have to tell me to come up and eat. You know what I mean? Like, she was like, they'd bang, my room was in the basement, and they'd bang on I think my room was right below their bedroom, my parents' bedroom. She would bang on the ceiling to get me to come up to eat. And
there's nothing perverted about that, Quinn.
No.
He's looking at you
it's my mom pounding her foot, Quinn. Come on. Where'd your mind go?
Walk away.
I didn't say anything.
No, you could see it in your eyes.
Yeah, Quinn and Megan can read you more than I can.
Yeah.
Read you, so. For me, the advice would be just like, I think the biggest advice is from early on was like, don't give up. If you want to do something, keep going. I think a lot of people start with something and they either get frustrated or life comes along and just kind of slaps them around a little bit. And then they just put something that they're passionate about to the side. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like we talk about this all the time in this podcast about not being too old for the things you love.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of times, I know Megan gets it, I know your wife gets it all the time when they're like, are they seriously out gigging? Or
Yeah, I've had people that are like, oh, you should really tell your husband he's too old for that. And I'm like,
They've really said that?
oh, I've had it so many times, or I can't believe he's still doing that at this age. And to me now, I'm like, I don't even have to justify.
Did you
see
say-
what I did there? Justify. But yeah, because I think, we've talked in previous episodes. I'm like, that is one, makes Quinn happy. 2, comes back a better dad. 3, yeah, it's been a side hustle, not quite as big as yours, but it's the kind of deal I'm like, paid for braces, like, and so to me,
exactly.
I'm like, to me, you don't need to justify it, but everybody wants to get on board when it's big. When it's small, like smaller, and you're like just playing on the weekends, it's like, well, why is he still doing that? But everyone wants to get on board when it's like, it's big.
It's interesting because when you're small, people think you're being immature doing something that you love at this age. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
When it's small.
yeah.
But then all of a sudden, if you become somebody really big locally, they're all of a sudden, oh,
it's the coolest
whoa,
thing ever.
Yeah,
what
well,
happened?
it's-
And you're like going, really?
Yeah. So my friend from high school, her husband, I've met him once, but more, I know her. Her husband, I mean, there might be some people out there that might know him, but what is he, the solo hunter?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I guarantee I would be very interested to talk to him, but if you know anything in hunting, he's like the man. And he's made everything YouTube, podcast, all of that, but he started it kind of same thing, is just like, I like to hunt. And I guarantee like kind of that same starting game where people are like, oh, I can't believe your husband's out hunting again. And it's been able to definitely grow. That's not everybody's goal, but he definitely has been able to grow it. Now everyone's like, oh yeah, I want a piece of that.
My brother's in his 50s. He lives in Nebraska. He wakes up early in the morning before he goes into work and goes to this duck club and shoots ducks.
Ooh. So,
I mean, the hunting thing,
It's real.
I can't see anyone bashing on that at any age.
Well, I just,
I think probably more that would come from the woman's side. Like,
okay.
because to me, a lot of people won't say stuff about Quinn. I mean, you guys haven't gigged that much, or Quinn hasn't.
thanks a lot, COVID.
Yeah. But I mean, it's the kind of when you guys were gigging a lot more, I would have people all the time.
Yeah.
But they won't go up to Quinn. It's kind of like, are you still letting him do that? I'm like,
Oh, you're like a single mom. What, he's leaving you at home and you have to stay home with the kids and
Yeah.
he gets to go out and fun with the boys. Really? You still letting him do that, Megan? Why are you letting him do that?
and that's where you're like, just stay in your lane. Stay in your lane, dude. Stay in your lane.
Well, and I think really what it comes down to is if you're going to start a side hustle, look into your life and say, what do I truly love?
Yeah.
Because if it's like, whether it be podcasting, recording, playing guitar, the whole key to being successful is being consistent, and that if it's consistent practicing, if it's consistent gigging, if it's consistent recording, if it's consistent putting out content, if you don't love it, you're never going to stick with it. And it'll be just kind of that was fun.
And I think to probably add to that is, and I think this is way harder, it's easier to say than to do, is own it. Because we've ran into a lot of people that are starting a side hustle, and it's almost people will down talk it. And I understand why, because you feel very vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there, but own it. Be proud of what your work is. Even if it has slow traction, you don't make that giant snowman in your yard without starting with that small snowpack that you're slowly building, if you've ever done that in the yard. And so we've done that. It was like the other day, someone was just like, oh, this is just something I'm doing. And you're like, we told them, we're like, own it. Be proud of it. Be proud of what you're doing.
And I think just as human beings, I think sometimes when you start something, it either scares people or it kind of makes them feel bad that they're not trying to do something. And so they want to, I think human nature is innately talk it down. So I think for any of our listeners, if you do have somebody that's doing something, and it doesn't matter if it's not in your lane or if it's something that you're even going to be part of or invest in or invest any time into, support it, because you know what? They're growing as a person and doing something they love. And I think that's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Yep, it's all about. I mean, and I follow this guy on Instagram that he's all about. I don't care what people think of me. That's why I've become successful, because I don't care. So if you can get to this point where you don't care what other people think and just do your thing and be passionate, be authentic, be you, that's where I think the success comes, especially for yourself, fulfillment wise.
Well, and I will say, just like, you know, when you record music, it's like it's almost like emotional nudity, right? Because you're putting part of your soul out there.
Do you have socks on? Because if you're naked with socks on, you feel way more naked.
Yeah, you're 100% more naked if you have socks on.
I'm just wondering.
Compared to if you don't have socks
I
on.
am wearing socks.
Yeah.
What if you're wearing socks and you're Porky Pigging it? Do you feel more naked than just being naked?
Yes, you would feel more naked if you're Porky Pigging it.
Okay, just wondering, just clarifying.
Porky Pigging it?
That's where
Think
you have
about
to
it.
have a shirt on.
Oh.
No pants
Yeah, like,
on.
you know, Porky Pig, like he just has the
Thank
shirt. we call in our house Porky Pigging it.
Do your kids run around Porky Pigging all the time?
No, kind of
just you guys.
Kind of fun story. Came out of my hip surgery, and the lady like brought, you know, hospital gown, brought my gown or my clothes back over, and she just gives me my shirt, and I had to leave with this full leg brace, and she didn't give me any pants, and I just looked at her, and I'm still like high as a kite. And Quinn said that I looked at her and I said,
no, she said, well, you can either just go or you can put your pants on.
Yeah, and I just looked at her and I don't really remember it, but I just looked at her. I'm like, I'm not Porky Pigging it out of this place with everything hanging out.
I believe I'm not going to Porky Pigging it down this hallway, lady. Yeah. And you were so high, I'm like, she'll put pants on. She'll put. Don't worry, she'll put pants on.
So anyway,
I was going to say, congratulations on getting through all that.
Yeah,
and last time,
walking.
Like the last time I saw a picture, you were like in a wheelchair. And
I've come a long way, people. Come a long way. So,
all right. Well, I know we've talked about starting a side hustle. I know we've talked about Rich's YouTube channel. Just real quick, Rich, before we dive into this next segment, how many followers do you have?
I just hit about 13,000 on YouTube, which, I mean, in the scheme of things, that doesn't seem like a lot compared to some of these big YouTubers, but it's
huge.
For local.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's pretty good, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing.
For me, just doing like maybe one or two videos a week, you know?
I absolutely love it.
Own that shiz right there.
Absolutely
Own it.
love it. Yeah. Well, as part of Rich's side hustle, he's been as he mentioned, he took a little hiatus in recording, but he's been a recording machine as of late. And as part of decking the halls,
yes,
and as part of celebrating the Navidad, as we'd say in the old country, yes. Rich has recently put out a Christmas album. Rich, so what inspired you to do it, and tell us all about it, man?
So I kind of always wanted to do really, the whole Christmas album came from an album I did this year as well. I did a electric guitar hymns, you know what I mean, and that the whole instrumental thing, Christmas instrumental album, came from that whole idea. And I reached out to a guy that was really successful, and he kind of, in a way, kind of gave me a pat on the back and said, yeah, just start putting stuff out, man. You just got to start putting stuff out, and always just keep putting stuff out, no matter what people say, and just flood your content. And that's the way you do it. And so, but in a way, I've always wanted to do it anyway. It was just having somebody that was like successful in the music business saying, hey, Rich, you're already good. Just do it, dude. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of where the Christmas album idea came from, was I just kind of kept going on this instrumental. But on this album, I do a couple songs where I sing on as well. So,
oh yeah.
And before I did any of this instrumental guitar stuff, I was a singer-songwriter, and I've done like albums of tons of songs of me that I've written. You know what I mean? And that nobody ever listened to. They're on Spotify, you know.
I listen to them.
Well, I know. Thanks, Quinn.
Well, the thing I loved about your album that you just put out, and for those of you who are curious, the album, or you can find Rich on Spotify under Rich Bischoff. Rich, why don't you spell your last name? It's kind of like the cookie you get on Delta Airlines.
I always have to spell it like this when I'm like telling people over the phone. B as in boy, ISCHOFF as in Frank, because they think I'm saying SS or V at the beginning. So it's BISCHOFF.
Awesome. So yeah, you can check out Rich on Spotify. But I gave it a listen, and obviously there's some great traditional music on there. I love Christmas music, and in fact, I just passed the threshold. Megan's got a rule in the house that it has to be the week of Thanksgiving in order to listen to Christmas music.
Good for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for my money, it does not get better than when Andy Williams, the great crooner, sings "It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year." Absolutely love it. I'm a very classic Christmas guy. I like the old school music, but Rich wrote a fantastic original song. So on your album, you have classics, right?
Yeah, so I've got like The First Noel and Angels We Have Heard on High, Silent Night,
Little Drummer Boy.
Little Drummer Boy, stuff like that. Jingle Bells is
Yeah.
on there, like a bluesy, jazzy version of that. But I also I wanted to scratch this itch of my singer-songwriter side too, and so that's why I did kind of a song like that as well.
Well, and the song is called December, for those of you listening. And the coolest thing about
December.
this is Rich did it. Rich has his daughter who sings on it too, which is pretty unique. And she's got a fantastic voice, which makes it really cool.
Yeah, and she's played in bands throughout the years. I kind of got her. I don't think I really like forced her into it. I think she really loves it. But I think now that she's older, she wanted to sing on this one, but it was kind of like, I don't know. They get a certain age.
Had to coax her a little bit.
Yeah, maybe coaxed her a little bit, and she just, even after she was done, she's like, "Oh, I don't like my voice on it," or whatever, like that. And I'm always that way with my voice. I'm like, I totally could have sang that better, but if you don't give yourself a timeline and like decide you're going to release something, you never will.
Yeah, just start, right?
Yeah, just start.
Well, why don't we do this? Let's. I'm gonna play December, and if there's anything you want to talk about during the song, kind of how it came about, the lyrics, any of that.
I can just like give a quick little intro.
Yeah, I'd love that.
So the last few years, Christmas has kind of been, man, I just feel like it's so commercialized with Amazon, and you're just like, it's all stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I think I've kind of turned into a Scrooge. And so this was me kind of writing a love letter to myself about like me remembering what Christmas was to me as a younger kid and the feeling of it. And so that's the feeling I wanted to portray in this song.
Let's give it a listen.
Frost is forming on the window, and ice is sticking to the road, and you and I are holding hands again. It's time to let that feeling grow. December, December, where have you been? December, where have you been? It's good to see you again. There's children gathered round the tree now. So many amazing things to eat. I pull you in, I pull you close. I pull you close to me. December, December, where have you been? December, December, where have you been? December, December, where have you been? It's good to see you again.
Here comes the obligatory guitar solo. There aren't many of these in music anymore, Quinn.
No, but it's so good. It's like hot butter dripping off corn.
Thank you.
It always goes down smooth.
The 31 days is all you give me. And 31 days and you'll be gone. You and I will still remember
their 40s.
Quinn was doing a good hippie dance.
That's awesome, Rich.
Thanks,
That's a
man.
great tune. I love that you did it. That your daughter was on that with you, man. That
Yeah,
is
fun.
That's so cool. I have to ask you.
It's a keeper.
It's a keeper.
It's a keeper.
One last thing about your album that I have to ask you is, first off, who's playing the recorder?
There's not a recorder on there, Quinn.
No, there is some sort of flute-like instrument being played in one of the songs.
Okay,
it's
so-
not in December.
No, it's actually in December. It's actually in there. You hear the sustaining thing going on. In
No.
the,
It's. I swear you've got a recorder in one of your songs.
Well,
no, it's not a recorder. There's a thing called an EBO. Have you heard of those?
I've heard of Bebo.
It's this thing that it's a magnetic thing
Oh,
that you put near
yeah.
your strings.
Okay,
and
yes,
it automatically
yes, yeah.
sustains
Okay.
the things. And I bought one of those about a month ago. And it was kind of a thing to inspire me to do
Yeah.
something a little bit different.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I was recording.
I think Quinn has PTSD from the recorder
I-
because what grade was it?
It was like third grade. And
No, I think you learned fifth grade.
No.
is record-
No. Fifth grade, we were already in band.
I could see how you would think that would
No,
sound
but
like a recorder.
so
but
Quinn, who loves music, was kicked out from playing the
Yeah,
recorder
they,
and
they
had
told me I wasn't good enough, and I had to play the finger symbols
and
on
what-
Ode to
what-
Joy.
What was your part?
Ding, 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 ding.
At the very
ding,
end.
At the very
So
end.
you still have PTSD.
Yeah, so he
all those-
literally our kids will come home with
All
the
those
recorder.
schmuck kids with their recorders going, oh, look at me, I'm playing Ode to Joy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, Quinn
Smug kids.
he was not allowed.
All right, Rich, where can people find you online, man? Plug yourself here.
So, just search me on YouTube, Rich Bischoff, of course. And I have a website, richbischoff.com, where I kind of promote my guitar lessons, my YouTube channel, my music, kind of that type of thing. And Spotify, Apple Music, about anywhere you want to find my music, you can, because the way they distribute it now, you can pay to have it basically go everywhere. So, Pandora, if you use that, I'm probably on there somewhere, somehow.
And doesn't matter where you're at. If you want to hire Rich to come play your backyard party, it's always a guaranteed good time.
Yep.
Good.
I've done a lot of those. I played a buddy's 40-year birthday party once that I went to high school with.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of weird because I was just in his living room playing the guitar while all his friends and all friends from high school that I knew too were coming in the door, and I'm just kind of back there, just like. And had a looper and stuff, and he paid me well, but it was just kind of like, I'll play any gig.
I was going to say that reminds me of a Modern Family episode where they had just a random guy in the front room.
And it was just so weird because all of a sudden, friends or associates from high school started gathering in the living room kind of to listen to me, but they also just were talking. And I'm sitting there like he's paying me to perform, but I'm like, I just want to talk to my friends.
You're like,
so
this
like
is so
at one
awkward.
point, I think I just stopped and like just started hanging out and talking.
Hello. Well, we like to end. I mean, this is our first interview, but
Thank you, Rich,
Yes, thank you
for
for having me on.
deflowering us in our
Deflower.
in our
You're welcome.
interview process.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
scandalous. But we are going to be asking every person that we interview the same questions. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Here's
This is going to be soul searching.
Is
So
it faster?
So dig
No.
deep.
To think?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So, how are you being unapologetically yourself? How are you, in your 40s and 50s?
Honestly, it's a struggle every day to do that. And I feel like there's a lot of self-doubt, especially where we live. There's a culture that, and I won't get into that, but there's a culture that kind of molds people into a certain way. So I think you have to just believe in yourself and forget about what other people think of you and decide what you're passionate about and love it and go for it, and don't feel guilty about doing it. I feel like people start something and they start feeling guilt because, I shouldn't be doing this. I should spend more time doing something more productive. But you can balance your life and do the things you love and still do the things that matter the most. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
I absolutely love that, man.
Yep.
That was profound. Absolutely profound. The next question would be, how are you adding resistance into your life? We're big on resistance growth, not just saying, well, I'm just 40, so that's that,
I will be honest with you guys. There's days I don't even want to get out of bed, but I force myself to get out of bed and I do things. And if you can do that, if you can do one thing, say with my thing, I'm doing YouTube videos or recording a record or whatever. If you can do one thing a week that you love, I don't care what it is, do it. Just do it. Get out of bed and do it, and you'll feel so much better. And it could be something really simple. Like my third car garage was just a freaking dive for like years.
I think half my PA sitting in your third car
No,
garage.
just two speakers. You've got the stands, just two speakers.
Quinn explodes everywhere
Anyway,
with
so
stuff.
I finally, like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, pulled everything out of the third car garage, put a whole bunch of it in the back of my minivan to take to, like, you know, the dump or wherever. And I
Like
cleaned
Quinn
it all
speakers.
out. No, Quinn's, I still use your speakers all the time. So I really appreciate those speakers. They're old. I think you've had them since the college days.
yeah.
They're like 20 years old.
I bought those in 97.
Yeah, and they still sound great. They're Yamaha speakers, and they're a good brand. Anyway, so me and my wife kind of cleaned out the garage, and man, it felt good. Do you know what I mean? Just anything you can do every week, one thing that you love, even if it's just, maybe you don't feel like you even have a passion, but you know there's something you can do that will make you feel better about your situation. Do that with one thing once a week.
I love that. I feel like that's doable. One thing. Okay, the last question. This is the big one.
It's the big one.
Yeah.
Is that only 3 questions?
3 questions. Whew. I know. Are you sweating yet? Okay, last
hot
question.
here.
He's like, oh my gosh, I'm
You
sweating.
open the fridge back here, Quinn? That's some cool air.
This is actually the coolest thing I own in my house. In case you,
The Marshall guitar amp fridge.
this episode will be up on YouTube, but I traded a guitar for a Marshall guitar amp fridge, and it was worth it.
Wait, what guitar did you trade?
It was a Chet Atkins SST.
Just kind of like a.
It was an Epiphone like Dave
Oh, yeah.
Matthews, like, you know,
But
back
it's
when
like
school- back when he played a solid body.
But I want one of those in my studio, and they're like $500.
Yeah,
I
they're
know. That's
stupid.
why he was so excited. He was like, yeah. Yeah. Okay, last question. How are you justifying the F word? Dun, dun, dun.
I mean, I think it's just with everything I'm doing right now, I'm just trying to balance my life with the things I love. And like we talked about earlier, I think that people that are really passionate about stuff maybe aren't understood with some people. I don't know, maybe I'm making that up, but I feel like the way that I'm justifying the F word is I am doing what I want to do and what I love, no matter what anyone says, but I'm still making my life work and having a balanced family life and everything else that I do. So
That is so solid, man. So solid. Well, Rich, thank you so much for coming in. Greatly appreciate you taking the time to share your wisdom with us. Guys, this episode will be available on all platforms. Please share it with a friend, and it will be our first episode ever up on YouTube.
Doo-doo.
awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Well, thanks again, and you guys all have a great week.
Keep it classy.